Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
What's up? Seriously Dad. Today we have a panel of 4 dads. We all do some crazy shit. We all do it a little bit differently. We're going to talk about everything from sports to raising children with special needs and to having great hair. Seriously Dad, you're going to love it.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad? 2 father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Dad?
Seriously? Seriously?
We got a dad party.
Pause.
Yeah, pause. Hard pause. Hard pause.
Was I supposed to say pause before, right? You can't retroactively say pause.
Say something. Can I tell you that I knew you were going to say something silly? I knew it immediately. Just like, well, we got a dad party.
Well,
That had to have been one of the names you
Dad
guys
party's
tossed
got to be a
around.
thing on
Wow,
porn,
that-
like
Oh yeah, it's a link.
Pornhub
It's a
has got
link
it.
to Lemon Party. Do you remember Lemon Party?
I'm socially meeting new people, and I'm hanging out, and I'm having a good time. What the hell? That's what you call it. Now, what do you unpause? Do you unpause?
I don't think you are.
I think it's. I don't know how it works.
I think
You gotta hit play again.
I think you gotta hit
All right, play.
again.
Anyway.
Is there a remote?
Play.
Do I have to walk back up to the? Okay.
No,
I feel like it's a whole Rick and Morty episode. The guy goes pause. They have gay sex, and the next one they go play. And there's like nothing ever happens. It's like, that's
the better pause.
That makes
a
sense.
long pause.
Yeah.
That was an
Not
8-hour
good.
pause.
Yeah, this is actually the first time that we've had like 4 people. We wanted to have like more like we wanted to get some perspective. We always get perspective. Al and I are very different. This is cool. We were thinking about things like I was thinking about the other day, like you know, like I had to reprimand my child in front of like somebody else, and I thought to myself, like, oh, like I feel like you know somebody's watching you. So I feel like innate. It's like when as a teacher, if I'm getting observed, like I'm still the same teacher, but there's a little different pizzazz on it. You know what I mean? So I felt like, oh, wow, am I like acting differently to my kid right now than if we were in the car right now?
Yeah, you're,
You know what I mean?
posing,
Like-
you're posing.
Yeah, I was like, but like,
because you reprimand better, right? You're
well,
better
do you
at
feel like, what do you feel like when you,
Oh, Jesus. I mean, parenting is different when people are watching. That's 100% sure. When someone's watching, like, shit, I got to like do all these steps now. Like,
it's like when you're
I gotta
learning
ask a
CPR,
question
you're like,
for-
check their breathing. Do I clear the air first?
like, I got to let her answer when I ask a question. Fuck.
No,
You know,
I gotta let her get a word in edgewise.
yeah. I got to make this a real conversation.
When's the
Fuck,
last time this kid ate? Because that's really
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
weigh into their
Yeah, that's right.
attitude.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't yell some shit that's going to get me in
But
trouble.
you're like giving
right?
you're giving the steps. You're like, well, sweetheart, I know you're feeling X, Y, or Z right now, but we have to do this. I feel like I have to have a narrative outside, which I think a lot of rightfully so, people get, anxious about that when you hear people bickering on social media. I think it's because we're ignoring the fact that we all know this, but social media is teaching us to pretend like we're these perfect beings that like do perfect stuff all the time, and it's a bunch of nonsense,
You ever do that in public and then you feel like they're watching you like this guy's a little bitch?
Did you ever not? Would you ever
Yeah,
not
this guy's
realize it?
soft
Wish
as
you hit
fuck.
pause and then.
Yeah. All the pauses I wish I could have had.
But have you found yourself? Did you ever have to like give it like yell at your kid?
For me, so
Guest comedian John Montague, who's on the podcast because we introduced you earlier. We did not introduce anybody.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. First off, that's why we do the intro. This is now we got to cut all this.
Oh, yeah,
but that's
is
why
true.
we do the intro so that we don't
Damn
have
it,
to do
damn
that.
you.
Oh,
I'm an
shoot.
idiot. That's
Just
right.
trust the
I'm an
process. What are
you
we?
got
the
all these
76ers?
things screwed into the wall, and you're not that professional. You're just a guy that's got a screw gun.
No, we're good. So,
Playing
but yeah,
fast
but
and
I
loose.
do. I was like, I was thinking the other. Your kids are really young. So have you ever had to? You haven't had to reprimand.
Well, the
your
problem
kid
is, so yeah, my daughter's 2.5, and so for me, it's where are we? So if we're at like the good target, I'm minding my P's and Q's. Like, I don't want any like possibility of getting banned from the good target. But then we also have a Target Express that's right near us too. That I do a lot of my
You don't give a
pickups at.
fuck
and
about.
That one, yeah, I'll just let I'll let the threats fly at that one. It's like in the good Target, I'm like, oh, you're not going to go down the doll aisle.
So you got to read the room. You got to read the room.
But in like the bad in the Express, I don't even call it bad Target. It's still good. Shout out Target. I'm
Now,
going to keep mentioning it in the podcast.
John Montague
Now,
loves
which
Target.
do you prefer? So, like, do you think one is better than the other?
The other problem I was thinking about that too is like I'm too much of the goofball parent out of me and my wife. So it's like anytime I'm reprimanding my daughter, like if we're in Target, good or bad, I always like put it on somebody else. Like she'll be acting up. I'm like, yo, they told me at the front that you're not allowed to touch stuff and do things. They're gonna kick us out, and she still doesn't get it. So it's more just like to entertain myself. But I'm already blaming other people for problems that
Dude, that what we do all the time. Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus. I mean, all those traditions are like trying to like.
I always act like there's like this overseeing boss that set rules. Like, and even at home, like if I tell her something, she's like doesn't like it. I'm like, I know he made me do it.
HR and Janet from HR.
It's gonna be a problem.
Yo, that's actually how you get kids to like listen to cops. It's just like always threatening with something.
Yeah,
there's like a whole study about like how Elf on a Shelf is not like a new like Big Brother. I'm watching you.
That's a CIA. That's CIA written all over it.
That's a weird thing.
You guys, so your kids, and yours are 7 and 10, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Jay, I do want to say, here's the problem. I know you're kind of jumping, but we do have an intro, but also no one knows who's speaking or not speaking on the audio stuff. Jay, what's going on, buddy?
I am Che Guerrero,
Sorry, I know.
Dad of
I'm being an
two.
asshole.
Newly single, long walks on the beach. Can we have a whole lowered expectation? Grew up undocumented, so don't expect much from me. Am I a different parent? Here's the thing: both of my kids have autism. Mostly, I'm very in my youngest son's life, and the thing is, like his outburst out in the streets used to like give me like anxiety attacks, right? Like I used to be very much like, oh my God, please stop throwing yourself on the floor. I know you're not just gonna calm down like a quote unquote typical kid, right? Yeah. But these days, I kind of like I'm still like I enjoy his freakouts because I enjoy seeing other people be like seeing them like he's a terrible parent. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a great parent. I'm gonna deal with this like with kindness and love. But I love the fact that my son's annoying you because why do we have to be quiet at a Target? Go fuck yourself. Like no, man. I'm like everybody's walking around like it's a church. I'm like whatever. Like fucking Target.
Yeah, how long did it take you to get there? Did you get that right away?
It took me a while because I really used to really freak. Like you do put a lot of what other people are looking at you, and I used to really like, oh my God, this kid has autism, and I feel like I'm a terrible parent. I don't know how to get him to calm down. Then da 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 da. But now, like, and really people's eyes used to be on me, and especially see like, other people of color. I'm like, no, guys, I'm trying here. Like, I don't care what white people think about me. They always think we're bad parents. You guys think I'm a bad parent. But like now, like I really get down, and I know how to like get him to breathe. I set timers. I'm here, have daddy's phone. I give him a minute to to do his thing, and once he's over it, I'm like, "Hi, we good? Cool. Let's get on to the next thing." You know what I mean? Because it was too much of other people's eyes, and I realized, why am I caring about other people are doing? My kid's having a moment right now, and I got to focus on him.
That's right.
Right. Your focus should be on that. But human beings care about what other people say way too fucking much. Young, old, and in between.
It does. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings, and my daughter broke the red crayon the first stroke because that crayon was not Crayola.
Those weak, but they give you the weak ass crayon.
So
they don't know.
She gets the crayon. She goes the first stroke. It cracks and goes on the floor. Loses it. I mean, stage 4 loses it. And like this guy, like Billy Bob, has to like look up from his riblets for a minute. And like he's like giving me like he's giving this look. And I'm, like you said, super defensive at this point. And I'm like, dude, she just beheaded her best friend. She's mourning. Can you give her a minute? Does it make your garlic wings taste any different?
It's like can't hear shit anyway.
It's, you know what I mean? Like, but they didn't have anything. It was like
bit,
early.
by the way.
They should be right.
I've never
I'll just picture you having a
great choice of words. She beheaded her best friend.
That's so funny.
Totally.
But like that's like, and I just because that's where I get. I think that's where a lot of my like it's like all the stuff I think in my head in that moment that I never say to the guy. Do you ever do that? Like I prep the conversation that never happens.
And you want it. You want it.
You know what I mean?
You want it.
Yeah. I want to replay.
Forget pause. I want replay.
Oh yeah. Well, it's mostly whenever I'm telling the story back to my wife later on. So like if I was in that situation, I was like, and I said to this guy, I was like, you don't fucking talk to my daughter like that. And then she goes, and then she'll pause and she's like, and what did you really say? I was like, I said, hey man, can we get some more crayons, please? because I'm a coward. All right.
Right? That's
I
what
do the
our
same thing when
wives, they
someone
know
cuts
it.
me off. It's like, yeah, I'm like, and then I let them have it. And she's like, what'd you really do? I was like, I cried a little bit.
I kid you.
I turned around.
I don't even remember what happened. We were in the car last week. I think my mom was with me and my daughters. And this guy like did something stupid and it pissed me off. So then I accelerate after. My mom's like, "Your daughters are in the car with you right now." And I'm like, "Oh yeah."
That's
Like,
a
I just-
new. That's a new problem for me because my daughter recently just got. Well, in the last couple months, got her car seat turned around facing forward. So she gets to see how many. She is all over that magic carpet right now of me just giving people the finger.
Did
at
you do the double
intersections.
mirror? Were you doing the double mirror before
Yeah,
that?
which I had that thing mapped out perfect. I was still flashing a bird to everyone around me. I love giving the finger. It's so good. No one ever sees it, but it's such like a satisfying thing.
Do you do it like at the glass, like kind of
Oh yeah, I know. I put it right up against the glass. I hurt my finger half the time. Like, but like now she sees those, and I'm like, shit. Like,
Bad dad. There you go. Bad
yeah.
dad.
I got now. I recently had to start listening to what I'm playing in the car too,
Oh yeah,
because
that's
she's hitting
an interesting
repeat
time.
age now.
an
So
interesting
she hasn't
time.
dropped. I can't wait. We haven't gotten like the official first curse word yet, and I can't wait for it.
Oh man, well, that's
Yeah.
why
You curse-
my
you
bumper
curse in front of your
stickers
kid?
right there. My
We don't, but we've let them fly a lot while she was
You
little.
have before.
They went into that head like
They've
and
got
it's-
process.
but they're
Yeah,
always
so
like
fast.
jokingly. It's never like out of hate. So I kind of like, oh, maybe if she thinks it's associated with happy, fun things, except for when I'm yelling at a fucking jerk off for cutting me off,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and flashing the bird. But
with my son, like, because sometimes with kids with autism, they have like echolalia.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly
he'll
right.
repeat sometimes bad words. So then it becomes seriously like a bad like joke between us because I go fuck and he'll go fuck and I go fuck and he'll go fuck. I mean, stop,
match.
like, yeah, I'm like,
Yes.
we both are having echolalia. I'm like,
he's
fuck,
yes
fuck,
ending you.
fuck.
He's improving.
Yeah, he's improv. So we're both saying the F word for like 15 minutes. Going like one of us needs to stop because
You just gotta start
I have
changing
that
the way
problem
you're
a lot.
saying it. in the
I have that
middle.
problem. My kid can make me laugh. That's the problem. Can your kid make
Dude,
me laugh?
all the time.
She can make me laugh. So sometimes I'll be like trying to reprimand it, and she's like, and I'll be like,
Mine's
you're
already
like-
learning the power of
and
that
like,
too.
like once the lip moves a little bit, you're
Yeah.
done. You're
The
done.
stone face.
Because
is
once she
hard.
knows that she has you, she gives you a sign like I got you. So I have to be careful.
That's going to be
'cause
her
she can
move
make me,
now.
She can
She's
make
going
me
to know
laugh.
that's her move.
She can make me
And it's an
laugh.
endearing moment. You know,
It
that's
is,
what's
it
so
is,
hard
it is, it
because it's
is.
an endearing moment, but it's gonna be one of the things that's gonna haunt you in 10
It's
years.
gonna
kind
piss
of
me
thing.
off. Well, do you do that? Like if your kid, all right, so you say, hey, do not go in the kitchen. And then you start doing something, go, hey, can you go in the kitchen and grab daddy's shoes?
Yeah.
And then they go, but you said don't go in the kitchen. Does that make you laugh? That shit, I like that shit. I think that's fair game. I think we said ourselves, that shit makes me laugh. And I'm like, okay, you're right, but not really. Can you
That's
go in the
in the
kitchen and grab
same
thing?
realm as like me reprimanding her for this stupid stuff I still do at 37.
Yeah.
So like me telling her to not pick her nose, I'm a fucking hypocrite. Like,
Well, that's right.
because I was just digging. Like,
I have to learn from my wife. My wife's a pro, so it's not about talking about what you don't want them to do. It's about focusing on why or they shouldn't. So, hey, we don't want to make people sick and spread germs, so we don't.
Understanding
we
the
have to have clean hands right
situation
now.
fully.
Clean
Yeah.
hands. And so it's like that for me is not how I'm wired. I'm wired like we're saying here, and I have to pause, and then I have to think about what my wife
I'm
would
getting
tell me
hard.
to say.
it's not my style.
But like,
Am I
you
doing it
don't
better?
you don't pause so well. Like in the moment,
Yeah.
like even especially if you're busy, because it never happens when everything's going well. It's when you're late, you can't find your shoes. Where are your keys?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Just listen to me.
And then
like,
it happens, and then I'm yelling at my kid, and then guess what happens? She's yelling back at me,
Yes, that's the,
and
once
now
you
we're
start
both
yelling-
crying.
Once you start
and
yelling,
I'm driving still.
because when you start yelling, they won because you're going to probably apologize.
I apologize.
You're going to
She
apologize.
starts apologizing, and then I'm
she apologized.
apologizing,
Oh
and
my
we're
God,
crying.
this family.
but then you're
So it gets
also
a little-
racking your brain for you're like, all right, I got something. There's got to be something that can shut her down. You're like, did you want to go to that princess party in 2 weeks or not? And they're like,
yeah.
shit, I really want to go to that princess party. I'm gonna act right for the next 9 minutes before I get into something else.
It's 2 weeks in a row. He's going to use this like 4 more
Oh,
times.
we've been
Fuck
using so many birthday parties as like not. I don't want. it's like very incentive based in our parenting of like, we're like, I don't know, you're kind of being an asshole right now. I would love for you to go to that fairy princess party. They were back to back.
So incentives. So like we had Chris Monty on, and he talked about they get a gift for their kids all the time, and I'm like, that's dangerous.
That's a rocky road. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's like the parents that also give like big presents at Easter. Go fuck yourself.
Like the bikes.
Easter's a bunny with some peanut butter in it.
Thank
That's
you.
Easter.
Yeah, you
Easter's
got a
like
bike?
fucking a Cadbury.
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you.
You and your
Get the
horror.
There's no break
I'm thinking of
between
a
gifts these
specific
days.
parent.
You're
Between
fucking
gift seasons.
Do you have something you do? Do you have something that you do instead then? Like if you want your kid to act differently or like have a behavior plan for something, do you have stars, stickers? What do you do?
He started laughing on that one.
Oh my God. Okay. This is where I might turn to a bad parent. My kid has one phobia and one phobia that's really weird. And whenever he's not listening, I'll be like, I'm gonna put on Pinocchio. He hates.
Shit.
I'm talking about he will run out of the house.
Yes.
So as soon as I go, don't make me put on Pinocchio. And here's the thing I feel bad about. Like sometimes Pinocchio shows up a lot more than you think. So sometimes I'll just be watching shit. I'm like, oh shit, Pinocchio's in Shrek. You know, like, damn. Or like one time I was watching Seth Meyers and Seth Meyers like Pinocchio, and it just popped up and he like wow. So I'm like, so that's my thing. I'm like, don't let me put on Pinocchio.
This is like Batman's origin story, right? Because wasn't he afraid of bats, and then
you hover this whole Pinocchio thing over his head and just have him.
There you go. One day he's just gonna fight against pedophiles. He's gonna take them all down. That'd be. That's a great origin story.
You know what? If you guys name episodes Geppetophiles,
okay, there we go.
I'd like to act like that wasn't a joke I wrote like 5 years ago, and I still haven't been able to shoehorn it into a bit.
Oh shit! Well,
We know how you do it. He does a scatter shot.
5 years later.
There, it's on the internet now.
You're gonna crush.
I'm going home and watching Pinocchio, and I'm gonna pause. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna watch it in a whole new sense now.
Yeah, tell a lie.
Jesus,
That's gonna be like Pee Wee Herman's word of the day.
Geppetto. I'm scared of
Somebody
some guy
said
with
Geppetto.
Geppetto. Yeah, so hold on. I have a question. I don't want this to sound insensitive. You both have children with special needs, right? So you have children. They don't tell you don't know prior to birth that there's going to be like autism would be a thing. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a left turn.
It's a left turn. Okay. At what point?
punchline.
At what point are you realizing you're in the midst of a left turn? Like when? How old? What happens where you go? Oh, we may have something here we got to talk about or address.
You want to go?
Yo, you go. Yeah, because I've talked a little earlier.
You got to take the floor, brother.
I mean, you know what's crazy? It was because both of my kids have autism. So with my oldest, my ex was a teacher for children with autism and did not even register that our son may have autism until a friend of mine goes, "Hey, your son keeps rocking every time we take him on the J train," because we were in New York. It's like,
well, that's like how a landscaper's lawn is always the worst one in the neighborhood, right? Because you're focused on everybody else's shit. You don't think about your own. It's
that
like,
is a very good point.
Yeah,
we didn't notice how ours was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, she was like, you should really, you know, tell, you know, your ex, like, hey, you know, you should probably get him tested. And sure enough, she did. Like, yeah, he has autism. And she was like, she even felt like I'm ridiculous. Like I'm a teacher, and
you're too close to it, though.
You know, so she felt
and you want to see the
you're in the
best.
moment.
You
You're in
want
the
to see the
moment,
best. You don't want to think that. Like I had a hard time. Thankfully, my wife, like the tiptoes. There were just certain things that were undeniable with Alicia from very young.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd be yelling. She'd be sitting right there where Al's feet are, 5 feet from me, and you'd be like, Alicia, and she would not turn. But like the minute, like you said, Chica show, which she loved, she'd turn on a dime, and you're like, that's not normal. You know, and she didn't talk till she there were a lot of signs.
But does your wife walk up at some point? Does your wife walk up and say, "Jay, I think this is what we're dealing with"?
I think what happens is you see those moments happen, like, oh, Chica's on there, she's playing here, my wife and I are sitting on the couch, and you're like noticing she's tiptoeing, dancing, and that she's like very excited, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's cute and adorable, but then you're like, oh, tiptoes, and like apparently she used to tiptoe, and and that's like one of the telltale signs of some of those things because of the sensory, and it's called stimming. Because they're like overstimulated. It's like Neo in the Matrix in the chair. You know, like all of that data is coming in so hard and fast, and not how you would normally. So everything's striking her: the lights, the sound, the TV, and she's like, all of her energy is there. So like the sounds of like if somebody's walking upstairs, she can't tune that or has to completely tune it out because it's like when the Ghostbusters join their rays to defeat Stay Puft. Like all of her energy's going into whatever is her preferred activity. Yeah. And that's why I think with kids like Asperger's and things like that, you know, love trains and all of those things because they get hyper focused.
But then does it change? Like, so you have this vision of your life, you have a family, things are going. Does everything like have to become rerouted and like we're gonna do things differently now?
You actually said it perfectly. You have the vision of what this kid's gonna be like. Well, my second son, no offense, I was like, this one's gonna be good. This one's gonna be good. I'm sorry, like maybe I love my first son, but maybe just
second batch is always
second batch. You know what I mean? The first time you mess up, I'm like, oh, this is not what I didn't want to make chicken. At all. I'll make cordon bleu next time. You know what I mean?
Right.
I fucking burnt the chicken again. And actually, let's put it. Actually, it's been proven that autism is from the men's side.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah. So it's us. So
autism and hair. Those are the two things. Determined on the side. Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I think that's an honest feeling. That's the feeling. Because to your point, like when it was happening, like. You have some I had some crushing moments. Like we would be at a party with kids her own age and they're all playing and she's off in the corner and can't even talk to like interact with them and doesn't just hyper focus on whatever toy. And you're like leaving the party like, oh man, like you feel like, you're watching your kid get picked last for dodgeball.
Right.
I will say it's just so so always it won't be like such a always downer kind of thing. From my son, I'll tell you guys this: he's fucking adorable, right?
He's
a good looking kid.
Thank God.
And he's like, and the thing is like the funny thing about it is like that girls at like little girls at the park or whatever will come up to him and they'll be like, "Hi, what's your name?" And he's like looking up at this like at the clouds, like, "Oh yeah, clouds" or whatever. And girls think that he's ignoring them.
He's playing them.
Like,
so like I've had girls walk away crying because like he's so mean. I'm like, yo, he has no idea how much he's crushing it right now. Like, I wish I was that cool and could just ignore the girl. And the girl looks at me like, you want this? Please marry me.
When girls go undiagnosed because they're just considered quiet or whatever. And like to your point
girls
earlier,
go undiagnosed compared to boys.
Yeah, so like you're not noticing. So your goal is to say, well, hey, it's still developing because it is. It's like a 2K. Like when I describe it to some of the younger comments, like, yo, it's like a 2K player, but like some of their stuff went all the way to 100 that shouldn't have gone to 100, and then the stuff that should be at 50 or 60 is at 2.
Yeah,
and it's just a different game. So what do? You're still on the basketball team. You just know when to pass the ball and when not to pass the ball. You're still playing the game together, and that was the best thing for me because that was my whole goal. I work in analogies myself. And so I'm like, oh, look, how can I process this myself, but educate the people who are going to be around her so that they don't look down on her. Like there's a diss in that disability. You know what I mean?
Did you have a moment internally, either of you to yourselves, where you like thought you fucked up, thought you failed, thought that this is the hardest thing you're going to ever have to do?
We came home from a Christmas party,
cried,
and I cried the whole drive home to my wife being like, what did I do? Why? Like, just like the lowest moment I probably had with it. And that was the moment that I grew from. So it wasn't until I got to there, like I guess what people talk about, anything rock bottom. We're talking about drug addiction, whatever. Like I think until you feel the full range of it, you're not ready to move on. I remember when they had it on the paper for the IEP, I'm like, oh, you made a mistake. It says autism here. You check that box. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, because I think so. Even though I was seeing those same signs, I still just had like, are we sure?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah, man, we're sure. We're sure. By the way,
the room started spinning with the second one. Really? It all came together, and I was like, "Yup, there it is." And I had a moment of despair, but my ex gave me like a real like film kind of like Antoine Fisher like speech.
We're gonna do this.
No, she was like, because I was like being frustrated, whatever, and she was like, listen here, I don't have any time. I don't have time for anybody who doesn't have hope for that kid. So if you don't have hope, you better leave right now. And I was like, I have hope for my son. I think, old time. Yes, I do. Yo, I started crying. That was my moment. Like, you know what? You're right. I better keep hope alive.
So your eyeliner's there, bud.
I better keep hope alive.
Dude, that's you have the then those
zoom in. For my baby boy. Sorry.
No,
She's like, keep
worth
both
it.
alive.
Worth it.
No, but I think that's so. My second one is neurotypical, is the fancy word for whatever. But it's like Anna and Elsa. Like that's how I treat it. Like they both are princesses. They're both in Arendelle. But and it's got to be the basketball team. They got to know when, like Alicia, if we're lost, if Katie's lost, Alicia is the one to be next to, because she corrected the bus driver when they were teaching the new bus driver the route and they made a wrong turn. She started freaking out at like 3.5. There's those things that I think my youngest has amazing empathy for her older sister, because still her older sister still looks up to her. And she's now here. And here's what the cool thing is. On Monday, my oldest was at a different school because our school district had different like places. Like, so since we live in the area for this elementary, but they don't have an autism support. So she was getting a different bus to one of the other elementary schools. Well, they changed it. So now next year she's going to be going to the same school as her sister. We were like, change. Do we really need to disrupt her world? But we ultimately decided to do it, and we just toured the school on Thursday, and the principal's adorable. He like grabbed her by the hand and they're walking through the halls. And
That's
it's like
awesome.
the cutest thing. And he's like letting her dictate where we go. And it was like so cool to see, like, and now on Monday I'm bringing her in. She's going to be the mystery reader for my daughter's first grade class, and she's in third, but she's taught herself to read it too.
Oh, okay.
She was reading the captions on my mom's television.
Yeah, my little one can read
And
very
taught
well,
her
too.
how to,
Really?
we didn't realize it because she wasn't talking, but we had like a poster of the presidents, and if you would say their name, she would point to them. And I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, Rain Man, like drop
I know
some
you
matches
hate
on
to
the
say
floor.
that, but we all look for our
Right?
radio moment.
Yeah, and
My kid
it's-
is alphabet. He can do Russian,
Yes.
Spanish, Italian,
Really?
Greek.
Yeah,
There's
the alphabet.
presidents.
Yes, and
There's a
count.
Rain
Now
Man.
she's days of the week. If you give her a day, a calendar day, she'll tell you the day of the week.
Wow.
Because she
Really?
goes through our Google Calendar. Wow. She knows when, anytime, if you say, hey, Lisa, when's the last time you were picked up from school? She's like October 24th.
Wow.
And she'll just like, oh, are
That's
you picking
awesome,
me up
man.
like you did on October 24th? And I was like, I guess I am.
I don't even
But
remember.
like, so, but you do have, but
Dad,
it's
are
not
you going to
like
be busy
crazy.
on January 6th again this year? Remember, I know all the presidents. Especially the one you told me is still. I 100% knew he was going to say it. I was just like, I was like, God, if he only knew what he was walking into.
Can you give me some of those Benjamin Franklins in your wallet?
Yeah.
Also not a president.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but those are. I mean, but we're all gonna look for those moments. Like, what are your like right now? Is there something that your daughter's doing that
Well,
you're like, she's killing?
I mean, the stuff you were listing off, you were just like, yeah, she tiptoes to Anna and Elsa. And I was like, damn, that's just what we were doing before we came here. I was tiptoeing around the house with her to Anna and Elsa. I don't know. She's super outgoing, like super, but like she can just get in those modes where she's locked in on something. And then my wife and I were like, well, we just suffer from crippling ADD ourselves.
Yes,
so we're like,
exactly right.
we don't. So I think some of the things we're seeing, because we know those things in ourselves, we're like, well, that's ADD, that's ADD. But I'm glad that you asked that, because then it's like, how long until I keep saying like these symptoms
Yeah,
are
you're like, wait,
'cause
this is something
I
else.
self-diagose myself every day.
We're like
for
WebMD
19
ourselves,
different conditions. So it's like for her, I do the same. And I try to do them like positive. I'm like, see that footwork? She's gonna be a shortstop. Like, my wife's like, she just tripped. I was like, she got right back up. Though. I don't know what you're talking about. But like, yeah. So it's weird. So I'm starting to watch more of those things because she's able to do so many things now. So I'm like, all right, how does she work in this?
How
You know,
old is she?
2.5.
Oh, so they're just starting to be a
Oh, she's
human
just
now.
starting
That's
to get-
cool.
Yeah. So, but she's doing like there is some stuff that like really impresses us where we hit our kid's a genius mode.
That's
And
right.
then there's stuff where she does stuff and we're like, no,
Oh,
that's our
everybody gets
kid.
a moment like this kid's
Yeah.
a fucking
But talking though, right?
genius.
And everything.
The talking is like very clear, but it's also like I never shut up and my wife talks all the time. So it's like we're like I think that she just is trying to keep up with us.
Yeah.
So she's been very good with that. But like then she'll do like building with magnetiles. And she'll have like a castle that is fully color coordinated, separated out, and like very meticulous.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's neither of us. Like, what is that characteristic? That's how I look at my wife and I was like, where were you 9 months before she was born? Are you sure you were some Rubik's Cube genius?
Every time I
Came
see her
over?
reading a book, I'm like, I would never. You had to pay me to read.
Yeah, you smack it out of her hand, like nerd.
Yeah.
So you guys are trying to have another kid.
Yeah,
Tell us about
we're
that.
we're in the early stages.
How's that working for you?
Conversation.
What'd you try last?
I mean, I was 3.5 minutes early.
You
so
act like you're about to go into an ad for Adam and Eve. Like,
yeah.
I thought you were about to do an Adam and Eve act because if you haven't tried, for
I already had to lie to my
with
wife.
the code second child, you get 90% off toys.
So I already had to lie to my wife and not tell her I was coming to hang out with Al because she would have been like, I got nothing to do tonight too. It's like every time I'm on a show with Al, my wife, she goes to a lot of shows, but it's like whenever it's Al or Ryan Foster. It's like, oh, you know what?
I like comedy again.
All
I'm a
my
fan
friends
of-
wanted to come to your show tonight.
Yeah, it's so strange.
So
Every time I'm
this stuff.
I know
after
nothing
she
about
watches
any of
this episode, is probably when.
pause. Wait, what are you saying?
But yeah, so we're in the early stage, the conversations of like when
the conversation.
when should we have number 2?
Right.
Because she's a teacher, so we're trying to time it out where like the break it coincides with
Yep, our first day of summer.
Boom.
yeah. So that's what, and we're both too dumb to do the math.
We didn't-
So
yeah,
we
we
just
didn't
got to
play 9
Google
months, bro.
when's a good time to have a kid if you're a teacher. Like
I love it has nothing to do with romance, right? That's the reality of it. It's nothing to do
I
with
thought
like,
Google was just gonna spew out sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just sends you abortion things in your state. You're like, whoa.
Well,
You guys shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I thought it would just send you links to a community college. Like, dude, get your life together. What are you doing? You have a
very
degree?
simple.
Yeah, pretty simple stuff.
my wife wants kids, and she'll at first she was sending
More-
me
more
messages.
kids?
Yeah,
Oh,
she did.
really?
She wanted her deal was like to have like a baseball team.
She wanted a
Like,
roster full.
she wanted she grew up like
Mormon level.
Yeah,
Okay.
You guys don't
religious,
make
like
enough money
rural
for that
country.
She won a baseball team and you ended up with part of a softball team.
Yeah, right. I was like, 1987 Major League Baseball lifted the ban on females, just so you know.
Okay.
My daughter, today was funny where we had her little league. She's in the challenger, like special needs division I run in. Usually I pitch, but we had these cool, like 11U kids that came and I had them in class, and like a couple of them like have been trying to like be more like leaders. And the one I did this like MC for bingo for the baseball moms. He showed up late. He's like, oh, can I call the numbers? Like, it was kind of cool. He saw me doing it and he's like, oh, can I do it? So today he wanted to pitch. So like I let him pitch, but then my daughter go up there. I'm like, no, you got to throw overhand to her and don't you lay off.
You're like, yo, high and tight on the
Like,
first
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
She's
Because
got
I
to
was
learn
like,
to
back
not
her off
crowd
the plate.
play.
What the
hit.
fuck?
So, like,
You're gonna
because
crowd
you
the
probably
plate.
do the same thing. Like when we see our kid has like something has something they do well, you're like, oh, this is our moment to show off. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the same
I
thing.
love even just in the backyard already crossing my daughter up like basketball.
Yeah, she
like
can't-
I
she
gotta
can't do
keep
you
her
up,
in
right?
check
She
now.
can't-
Like you gotta earn that goal.
When you're out there, when you soccering with Lainey, is she able to dribble past, or are you still kind of
No, I still give her. I play defense.
You're an
man.
Adonis, Jesus Christ.
Dude,
he's trying to make a champion,
She's gotta
not
get
a-
better, right? So she's
I agree.
never-
I'm with you on that.
But she does get. It's really cool to watch her get better. To watch them get better. It's
Yeah.
really. That's a lot of fun. It's
now,
like,
how is her
you
younger
could've-
sister? Is she just as good, or no? You got no skin in that game?
Younger sister, very different body types.
Okay.
Lainey's very tall, lanky, like me, and her sister's a little more mesomorphic, short and like stocky-ish. So
My two are like
I think they're going to go two different directions.
Second one's
when it
definitely
comes-
mine.
But dude, Lainey had a a softball game the other day. She scored a run. She had an RBI
Nice.
single. And she's fast. She's running. She's moving. So she's pretty athletic. But
That's great.
it's fun to watch her like strike out in the first week and then go 2 for 2 and then like make
wow.
plays in the infield. Like that shit is fun.
That's gotta
That
feel
shit-
But they're doing
Yeah.
something well, regardless. They're doing something that's what sports are so great for. Like, yeah, we all know the guy who did everything well or the girl who did everything well, but like sports give everybody an opportunity. That's why I like the Challenger League. All like these kids, like you're just playing. Everybody bats. You play 3 innings, and like the goal is to like make it as real baseball for them as possible.
Yeah.
They get a buddy, and then some of them are just whatever. That aren't either interested in it or their ability to like depth perception or sometimes can be difficult. But most of the kids don't hit off a tee. We do coach pitch.
Oh, nice.
I do overhand.
That's great.
And like not like looping it, and I either lower myself, like I'm either throwing a dart,
Right.
if I have
He's
to.
throwing on the line.
But yeah, and the goal is the goal is to be the line and to just adjust. And I was a varsity coach for a long time, so like I was very serious. We were state runners up in 2009, and like so I was very serious about baseball, even myself. So like it was interesting for me to then go do this because it was just so much fun. And that's like, oh my God, I don't have to have the practice plan. I'm not like running all these things because everything's on the
keep
line.
on-
You're like, wait,
home
games
runs.
can be fun.
like 4 home runs off this
we did
loser.
the walk-up
hitters this
walk-up
season.
music. The one kid with Down syndrome's doing like air guitar on his back
Hell
going
yeah.
to
That's
the plate.
awesome.
Everybody's cheering. You know, I hit the girl in the wheelchair. It was a nightmare, but that's a true story. Yeah.
Wait, did you hit her to put her in the wheelchair first, and then?
That's getting nixed right out.
I can't go there.
Yeah, there's a chicken or the egg question.
But like, when those weird things happen, just like when we have a kid, when you have a kid with special needs, you get to a place maybe faster where like you're not as embarrassed in a while because you understand the reality. And even if Billy Bob enjoying his parm wings over there doesn't understand in my heart now, but I had to have that moment and I had to feel awkward about that moment so that I could
Grow out.
It amazes me that now with like how much awareness and knowledge of autism there is that people aren't.
But you could have
used
all
to
of that
seeing
knowledge,
things.
and in the moment when they act the way they do, like she today, like a kid, the ball got hit over to first base. She was kind of playing second or whatever I want to call it. She runs over there. The other kid gets to the ball before her. Lost. He stole the ball. She's crying, and she comes over, and we're like, she has to sing a song. She has to take deep breaths. We have to squeeze, and then she's like, well, I'm like, well, but baby, he's your teammate. That means you didn't get to it. He got it for you, so you're excited for him. So you should cheer him on. And she's like, no, we should kick him off the team. And I was like, dang. And then she's like, we should make him sick. That's what she said.
That's something.
She
That
went
And I
straight
was like,
Dexter.
and I looked at the other dad, me and this other dad,
You're
who's
raising
a
a
great
Fauci
dude.
over here.
Biological warfare.
Right? So I looked at the other dad, and here's the cool thing about me doing the Challenger. When I did it for the first year, I was there because my daughter was in it, but like I somehow got put into being the coach of it.
Right.
And I thought I was just dropping my daughter off and watching off to the side.
Right.
And I gradually got but I just remember how nervous the other parents and we were all very tentative around each other because you could tell like all of our kids were different. And now to see what it is today, we had a massive cheering section. The parents are friends. We're having this end of the year party. We're going to like water balloon baseball bat. But like that first 2 years, I was so tentative with how I parented my own kid.
Right.
And when she's having it, when I was in front of these other parents, I was able to feel a camaraderie eventually that now I could, and we all get each other and we all kind of help with the other kid.
Yeah.
And the goal is for the parents not to be involved because that's where the buddies come in and so the parents can just be parents. But like somebody has to lead the show. And so there's this amazing woman, Leslie, who kind of like runs all the logistics. She's like super mom. Her kid has cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, but an amazingly bright woman. The girl is super smart. She knows what's going on. She just can't speak to emote that in the way. And so that's sometimes, she gets combined into like, oh, does she even know what's going on? Yeah, she knows what's going on. Because when I tell a joke or when she sees Alicia do something, she's like laughing her head off about it. So it's just like, but if people don't get to know your kid, they just know that moment. Billy Bob just knows the crazy moment.
you know what's crazy is like talk about knowing the kid, knowing the mom. Softball not so. Laney plays softball and soccer. Softball not so much. Not a lot of like pointed cheering. Soccer, the parents get a little motherfucking evil. They get pretty evil.
Yeah,
They're
what
like,
is it about
you're,
soccer and
You're
lacrosse?
faster than
World
her.
Cup.
Don't let her put. And it's like these. They're not saying like hurt someone and fuck that kid, but they're saying things that are the equivalent to that. You know what I mean? She's not as fast as you. She can't keep up with you.
I always
maybe
think
that's not as
any
bad,
of those
but, like,
parents, there should be a requirement. Like you have to wear a shirt that says the level you played that sport. I think this should be in life in general.
Yeah.
If you have an opinion on something, you have to first say, I stopped playing baseball when I was 7 years old.
Oh, eighth grade, huh? Okay, it's like in eighth grade. Yeah,
then
no
you get
problem.
people that have been playing something for a long time that won't want it. Like I played baseball my entire life, like through college, even right afterwards. And I never want to chime in anymore because it's like,
I don't
unless
say
I
a
see somebody that
goddamn
knows
word.
the same amount that I do, I don't want to talk to.
I don't say
that
a goddamn word. I'll say a
But
word.
that guy's
too
always
late.
the expert. That's what I hate.
Dance
I don't
mom,
say-
the dance mom who's all crazy, like the JoJo Siwa stuff. Dance mom just has tree number 3 on her shirt.
Yeah, I don't say a word. I just say well done. Well done, Laney.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
say. Well done, Laney.
Did you have fun?
And then
All right, let's go get
did
some
you
ice
have fun?
cream.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
And then I actually cheer for the other kids as well.
You were in the other
Hey,
team's
great.
jersey.
Especially if the other team wins, I just take the other jersey out. no,
I'm going home with them tonight.
but it's like, because you just want these kids to come out here, try hard, not start crying in the middle of the field.
I remember
no one
so
get
many
hurt.
dads when I was a kid playing Little League that were insane.
Mhm.
And it was a shame because I'm thinking of one specific friend of mine. He was an incredible athlete, but the level of his dad's insanity outweighed how good he
How-
and he ended
how
up
mu-
he
how
ended
many-
up
every class
quitting
has
wrestling, quitting baseball, like sports he
Yeah.
could have been all state in. He also
Yeah.
had a little bit of a rough patch, like just wanted to party and everything. But his dad was always just like that much more of an asshole than he was good.
He was,
Dude.
and it was a shame.
Every class, I coached 7th through 12th grade baseball, football, and basketball for boys and girls for like 18 years. And I will tell you, every class had that dad. I can think of 10 in my head popping up randomly. And it's like this mentality, like there's this moment that they bought a lottery ticket. And they're just waiting for the numbers to come in.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
dude.
and I feel like that.
oh, wow.
This
That's
is kind of my
so what it
questions
is.
to the dads because that's what I was thinking about this. I wasn't even gonna because you guys the conversation's great and then we kind of got back to it. I was like, this is crazy. This is nuts because there are those dads. But do you guys have anything with your kids that is that absolute? Because when you run into those terrible fathers that are like, you need to get all state and or whatever the hell, they put that kind of very harsh thing on their kids. But is there anything for you guys normal? I would say rational. I don't think anyone in here is like that. But is there anything you guys are like, I want college? Do you care about colleges? Do you care about a thing? Is there something that you in your head? Is there any they need to like do it?
You know what's funny? I don't know how to get my son into this, but like he's really good. Like he loves alphabet or whatever, and he loves creating his own like typography, like little text or whatever.
Oh, he likes like making his own maps.
No, his own text, like A.
Oh no, he likes making his own languages and
Yeah, I
stuff.
forget,
Okay, it's
like-
like etymology.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. It's like when you actually create the artwork that like they use on like Google. That's like different ways to write A, like
Right, of course.
different fonts. So there's like
cool.
Very
like
interesting.
he's so good at that. That
Yeah.
like
Neil got real excited for maps for a second there, though.
Cartography?
I think it's like
No, it's
There's one of the
typography.
He said typography.
Typography. Yeah,
You did say typography. I have
But
these.
it's like
on. I thought
topography.
it said topography, which I was
Typography
like,
is also a map. We gotta look these up anyway.
I hate myself.
That's actually one thing that I'm excited. I'm like, I hope, like, I'm trying to figure out a way for him. Like, I'm like this Christmas, I want to buy him like a book that's like ancient, like from like Middle
Sanskrit
Ages,
or something,
Middle
yeah.
Ages
Buying the
ways.
Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, like how they used to
translate
use
them.
their alphabet. Because I want him to come up with like words, like new alphabets
Yeah.
for like Google and shit, so we can get money off that.
There you go.
That's
So that's your meal ticket.
what I'm gonna take it.
Dude, there's some old Latin. We had to translate these old Latin texts, and the paper was such at a premium they would squish, so they would like learn different symbols to put at the end in case if it would have been an M, that would have been too wide, so they put like what looked like a colon, and so like they created shorthand essentially for it.
Okay.
But like it's cool because the way they had to style the letters to fit the paper, like I think that must be where font came from. Like when you like, oh, we got that paper money. We're our scribes are writing wide because we got paper for days. Like
Damn,
that kind of stuff.
but I am a sucker for a great font, though.
Yeah.
You put something in the old Eagles
that's-
or the old Phillies font, I will buy whatever.
I don't have an opinion.
Dude,
I
there was
don't
a
have an
shirt the other
opinion.
day at a
I'm
farmer's
Times New
market.
Roman. Like
No, there was a farmer's market shirt the other day that just said prosciutto and the old Phillies font, and I was like, I don't think I'm autistic for a lot, but fonts on shirts, I am.
Yo,
that is
Ryan
my
Was it
Foster.
3/4? Was it 3/4?
No, it wasn't a baseball tee, so that's why I'm not wearing it currently.
Dude, Ryan Foster has this hysterical joke because he has a sister with autism, and I don't get to see him or hear his stuff a lot, but we run into each other like grape every once in a while.
Yeah.
And he does this one about a water balloon. Have you heard
Yeah,
this?
it's
Oh,
so fun
brilliant.
to watch crowds. Different crowds react differently.
But I think we all because I think that's the point.
Because it is a good joke.
The
And
point of the
it's-
joke
It is
is
a very
what's
good
serious
joke, but
is that we
it's
all
one
have
of those
a little
jokes where you
bit.
got to take those people into that uncomfortable spot, and then they have
Hell
to
yeah.
release their assholes and
That's it.
fucking laugh.
Yep.
Not
Pause.
everyone has a good. Pause. Not everyone has it. Some people say tight ass, but yeah, it's one of those ones where you gotta.
But it's like so.
Let your shoulders down
But
and
just the content of it is beautiful because that's what is at the core of it.
Yeah.
Is that we all because we start seeing it even if your kid doesn't have it, like
Right.
you're saying, oh, we have this ADD, whatever. Like when we had our second kid, I'm sitting there eagle eye, Is she on her tiptoes? What's going on? You know, but like, you're doing all of those things, and I think any parent, for any reason, WebMD, you're gonna start saying, "Oh, did I do that?"
Do you guys notice that a lot now? Like, but being immersed in, like interacting with someone with autism all the time, do you notice a lot of things yourself that you would almost diagnose as like,
yes,
yeah.
I personally have
you definitely
so much. I know
you definitely got.
I know. Yes,
But you have traits. You have traits.
sorry.
You just have traits.
I do.
I didn't mean to, and this almost is a follow-up question that even though you've answered the first one, it seems like right now, and I almost did it right there, where it's like, that's my autism. It's like everyone is
That's what I was
taking
gonna.
it.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like
As a parent of someone
I-
with autism, is that something where you're like, yo, shut the fuck up?
Before you answer
Yeah,
that, before you answer,
I hate that.
it is a type of world where like you meet someone who doesn't make eye contact with you when you say good morning, and you're like, oh, he must be on the spectrum. Oh, he must be
Right.
this must
Well,
be a
yeah,
thing.
we self-diagnose everything.
And then
Yeah.
and then in comedy, unfortunately, autism is like saying, like calling someone retarded. I don't call people that. I don't use that word, but it's like just becoming this thing that it's like, oh, I'm like so and so with autism.
Yeah.
I look like so and so who's slightly autistic.
Yeah.
I was on the train, so I think I'm autistic.
But in
And
the defense of a
literally
comedy
the same.
scene,
So-
the comedy scene is probably the most undiagnosed autism.
Well, that's just it.
In
My
every
wife,
city.
my
I mean,
wife
that
would
is
bring
true. That
her
is very
special, her other like besties from school or in special ed, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna sit at this open mic and diagnose all." Of
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
comedians."
Yeah.
Well, I think like what was going through my head the whole time there was like, it's just like now my goal is to humanize it. And so like if you see me drop like a special down the road or something like that, I am intentionally developing just a whole set on autism, but like in the sense of like humanizing it, but
right.
explaining, but also making it funny. Like I've had this new in now where I'm like, I have to tell these younger comics, they're throwing the word around all the time. Like, I was like, listen, guys, like she sees the world, she sees the world in a state you take drugs to visit. And, and that's like my lead in. I'm like, you call it a trip. She's a permanent resident, but don't worry. All the therapies are working. So now she's a dual citizen is pretty cool. And like, that's my into the bit. And then I have like all of these other, like comparing her to Daredevil and how Daredevil lost his eyesight. And so he gained all these other traits. Right.
Right.
As
And
not
I'm
your
like-
manager, don't do too much of the bit.
Right, yeah.
I'm not your manager, but also don't do too much. We
makes
gotta sell this
sense.
to Netflix eventually.
I got this other one about shoes and how they're weird.
But so for me internally, that's how I'm processing. That's how I'm like, and then so comedy for me, that's what part of why we do this podcast. Cause comedy for me was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I gotta be telling my own story. Cause that's where really it is.
Oh, the teacher. I only say this for the teacher show I got to see for you guys. It was really nice just to see also like special ed teachers all in the same thing and hearing that energy. Like that energy pop, that was kind of crazy. Like hearing some
when
of
you
that.
get it, like the premise they brought it so much because it's so related. It's, like if there were parents in there who have like that's what I get the biggest. I had a woman come up to me. Her daughter was 4 and nonverbal, and like she came up to get like one of the bumper stickers, and like we just had this moment where we like hugged, and she's like, thank you for helping me laugh about it because I needed to be able to laugh about it to get through it.
That's the job of the comedian. Is to take you to that place where you can fucking.
The pandemic changed me forever. My wife and I like to barrel down and teach other kids, have our own kids, have my mom living and do all of that. My daughter was escaping. She was climbing out windows and like just roaming around our rural neighborhood where we just moved. And she wasn't verbal. So people were trying to like ask her who she was or where she was from.
Really?
But her sense of direction so good, she was just going on the trip we would take every day.
Right.
So if I was on the computer Zooming with my students and my wife was, she would crawl out her window.
You got double teaching your own. And
So we had to
others.
install. We had to install a security system. At first, we got window locks, which I was nervous about because I'm like, well, what if there's a fire? She needs to be able to get out.
Yeah.
And so we had to make a decision that, well, it's far more likely she is literally jumping out and escaping. So I got to put bets on. So one of us would stay up between the three of us, and we would take shifts at night, staying up all night to make sure that she wasn't escaping. And she wasn't trying to. She was just like it just was, and you couldn't
living in the world.
couldn't have a conversation. She was just like she wanted to get outside, and so so that
I mean, that's
was
just an episode of
heartbreaking.
Where the Wild Things Are. I mean,
It was
in some part, it is.
heartbreaking. You know what I
that's
mean? So
tough.
it's like
She's like, I
so
want to get out.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to. So to be in a committed relationship with the person, have that going on. My mom lives with. You have so many things. We put Impractical Jokers on the TV nonstop. True TV had it running. God bless them. It saved us because it gave us relief. We're like, oh, if we're laughing, those endorphins we were missing, or we weren't naturally getting those endorphins. And so that's what we did. We chased that. And so it became a thing for my wife and I. We always love comedy. So like people say, oh, how's your wife with all that? She's my manager. She's my consultant. Like they were about to release a reel of me from last night and I sent it to her. I'm like, hey, they bleeped out the F word. Should I put this out there? And so like her and I are like a team. I send her my set of her. As soon as I'm off stage, I immediately forward her what I did. And you know, we have that. This is part of our lives now. It's what helps us deal with. It helps us step away from all of that, have something else to focus on, like recess.
Right.
You know, I mean, so it's a beautiful thing. It saved us, I think. You know, so it's like to be able to do that and talk about real shit to make people laugh. That's fucking great.
You better hope you don't get too big. You're gonna have people coming out to your shows and like having you diagnose their kids.
Right? I'll be like the Temple Grand and like
They're like, we paid $200 for the ticket. We might as well. You know?
see what
Diagnosis while we're here.
I know, right?
Cheaper than healthcare in America.
It is.
But I mean, like, I love it. That
Yeah.
for me is like so cool because I hated not talking about it. I hate not
That,
like
no, well, that's the
pretending.
liberating thing of this whole thing. Or we're all comedians. That's the liberating thing is you talk about those things that for maybe a big portion of your life you were afraid to talk about, you were told not to talk about, and you find humor and you run with it.
Well, then it gets to that
we all have a
point-
distinct style.
Yeah, it gets
we
to
all
that
have
point
these
too,
things.
where people are like, "How do you talk about that stuff?" I'm like, "How do you not talk
How do you
about
not?
those things
Like,
just
yeah,
to people on a
exactly.
day-to-day basis?"
How are you
Like,
thinking about something for 4 hours today?
That
and
means
you
you're just
can't
doing it in
find-
your head, and
you
that's
can't
so much
like let it
crazier.
out. Yeah, yeah.
Well, then you go on Facebook and you put a highlight reel up of the amazingness so that we think there's a Wizard of Oz and not a man or woman behind a curtain.
I feel bad for anybody who doesn't follow any artistic art form. The first thing I asked people was not what their job is. Like, oh, do you do anything like
Artistic.
super artistic? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, you're sad. Like,
Yeah.
you're very sad. I'm sorry.
What's
You
your
need
release?
to get
It's
your
nice.
emotions
What's
out
your
some way.
release?
So that goes back to
What's
your
your
question
release?
earlier with what would you want your kid to do? Like, I'm going to be that parent that's like, I don't care what you do, but you need to have a thing
Mhm.
that isn't video games, watching TV, and
You
like
gotta
on
have
the couch.
something. You gotta have
have
a
a
release.
thing. If that
You
thing's
gotta
guitar, and I'm still at 37 finding my thing
Yeah.
every like 6 months. I'm like, I'm gonna get back into guitar again. Maybe I'll quit
We
comedy.
go play golf again. We
I'll
play a lot of
again.
golf
Like,
together. me
yeah,
and
I
this
started
guy,
a fucking
believe it or
golf
not.
show for 6 months and then was like, nope, this wasn't it. Let me.
I started screenwriting. Yeah, like
Right,
every,
yeah, so
every
it's
month
like-
I'm like, what am I do now?
But that's like my friends that are always like seem miserable. They don't have a pursuit of anything. So it's like
yes.
as
You
long
got nothing going
I
on.
just
You
want
have
my kid
nothing
to
going on.
have a thing
Yeah.
or have that urge to continually find a new thing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's my goal.
There's a
overall.
book I read called Grit, and I don't read many books, but there's a book called Grit. It's by Angela Lee Duckworth, who I guess did some work at UPenn, and her goal was she interviewed all these people at West Point.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh, they had a huge drop off rate. So she was interviewing them to see the successful ones. What made the ones stay? Ones who left, why did they leave? And is there a common denominator? And her thing was grit, was what she called it, which was the stick-to-itiveness.
Right.
And so like, and what does that mean? And how does that happen? And she was trying to scientifically. And one of the two things I took away was the speech. Like how you talk to, like, you know, earlier we're talking about don't pick your nose, and you're like, instead of saying, hey, I pick my nose, go ahead and pick your nose, pick me a winner, kiddo.
Here's the cool places to hide and do it.
Right? Hey, here's where you stick it.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, clean hands. We don't want to make other people sick. We want everybody to be healthy and happy. And so it's like, it's like for me, that was part of like listening to the speech you give. Like, don't tell your kid, oh, you know, oh, you're beautiful. Or like you're whatever, like that speech, or like, oh, math is easy and this is hard. Like you should be like those kind of things.
That phrase, "this is hard," I can actually go back and remember moments in my life when someone told me something was going to be hard, and I stayed away from it.
That's what I'm saying.
I can, I can go like
still
in
do that.
college. Yeah,
You get
like
me?
in college, college advisors.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I want to be a dentist, and they go,
You know how many teeth there are in a mouth?
they go, that's going to be hard.
Yeah, owl
What the
like
fuck?
this.
Why did you answer that away? Why is that what you did? Why did you high five me right off the jump back? I think that's amazing.
Man, the world needs also like low rent dentists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fuck,
Like we need
No,
some
shout out to
shitty.
Dr. Gribb. He's the man.
Or we need
Yeah,
sarcastic
be like, "Whoa,
guidance
that's-
counselors.
Yeah, there
You're
we
like, that
go.
job bites.
That's gonna be tough.
All right, I guess I'll go to plumbing school. I guess like
when I was coaching, we had a thing called the Positive Coaching Alliance, and we all rolled our eyes at it. But like one of the things, like, and that's any job that makes you go to a meeting about whatever. But there's always something there worth it, you know. And so this one had a 5-to-1 ratio. If you're gonna criticize them for something, there has to be 5 positive things that you say. And so that's something I take away that I just think in life is good thing.
that's like great stuff I learn in work all the time. Like, so like I've been in sales my entire life and I had to do like the managing of sales reps, and they always talk about those things. And it's so corny, but there's like things from that I've applied to parenting, like build, break, build. Like you build, then you break them down on something, then build them up again. It's like build in public, break in private, that kind of thing.
That's stuff. I say manipulation, but those things teach you how to handle people.
Yeah,
what is this propaganda? But it's like
it is. But
we need that.
It teaches you how to get what you want out of. How do you ask that question where that person wakes up when they answer it?
Right.
You know,
I don't think I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it backwards. You're like, I use my business on my kid. I use my autism skills on adults.
That's even better.
Because I realize everybody is just a tiny kid who just wants to hear "great job."
Yeah,
like I don't patronize.
By the way,
people,
guys, how have I been doing on this?
You have been doing a great.
Okay, good.
9
All
out
right.
of 10.
Ah, damn it,
You know,
Neil's
your
honest.
posture has been a little off. But no, it's like I'm just like
Was my
with adults. I'm like, you do great. You're amazing. Like I love giving people positive words of affirmation because I realize, like, we're all just kids who want to really be told, like, you're really doing a great job.
Yeah.
I'm not patronizing you. You really are.
Yeah,
So,
It's
like,
also fun. They really shit on, like, if you have, especially in comedy, you have like that person you're close enough with when they like walk off stage and everyone else usually does that, like, yo, good one. Yeah, I mean,
that's
tight set. And then you get to your one friend that was like, why do you even do this? And you're like, I fucking need you in my life.
That is
Neil.
the person I need. Yeah.
Dude, that's what I said. Caesar, I was like, Caesar, when he won a big battle, they said that when they had the big parade, like the Eagles parade for him, he had a slave on his chariot, like whispering in his ear, like, dude,
Yo, you ain't shit, dude. Yo, oh,
exactly.
lucky
We
you
need
put-
this.
yo, they're never gonna name a salad after you, you bitch.
That's what my wife is for me. Like I'm like, yo, did you hear the set last night? And honestly, I had a great set. I was very happy with last night. And I sent her, she's like, yeah, they really liked it. That's what my wife said. I was like,
Just that,
yeah,
it's
but
that
what's it?
tightening right at the end of it. Yeah, they really like it.
No, and
She
she
writes
was
back,
being,
set. I heard a guy
honest.
trying really hard.
Yeah. But then I'm like, oh, she's literally heard every minute of comedy I've ever said.
You got to give them.
That's
a minute.
wild.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, I'm surprised you still send it.
And I'm
surprised
expecting
you
her
still
to
send it.
just
You're so
open her
married.
legs and say, let's go, Poppy.
Yeah,
Let's not do that.
They get over it very quickly.
All right, I'm going to mark that down.
This is an illusion for about 15
No, you
minutes,
keep
and then
that.
it's like, I'm
the
Oz.
same joke as the
I'm
change
Oz.
of names.
Dude, if I'm being honest, like Mike Birbiglia had a special, which was my girlfriend's boyfriend.
Yes, my girlfriend's boyfriend.
And I watched it on Netflix. And this was right about the time where I started going to open mics with my wife just to get out of the house and watch. And I remember watching it, and he talked about it. The whole concept was how in the beginning he didn't believe in monogamy or getting married, and then by the end it was about him like falling in love with his wife and how he knew after this accident that she was the one, and it all got put into perspective. And that was for me. I was like, oh my god! Like, and he's done this special, and it's such a tribute to his relationship. And that was the thing to me. I'm like, oh. Like my wife and I need this right now. We're struggling. We got like all of this going on in here, and we need paddles here right now. Otherwise, because when I watch stuff like Love on the Spectrum, a lot of the families, when you see the families, that's what I watch. I didn't watch the kids. They're adorable.
Yeah.
I watch the families. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're still together. They're not together. Oh, it's only the dad. Where's the mom? And you start to say like a lot of these families, because of the stress, split apart, and that's natural because it's like it was a moment where I was like, if we don't find something right now, it's going to be like the Antoine Fisher moment for the relationship, not just for the kid. And it was like that was probably the thing that saved us, because it finally got us on a track where like we had something that was creating something for us, and it was just fun. And that's what I did. I wanted to make her laugh. My goal was like, I wanted to be funny for her. Fuck the rest of you.
Yeah.
I wanted to be funny for her.
Does she ever hit you with somebody else's joke? Like,
Yeah, fuck that. I don't like
dude,
that shit.
wives love that
Yeah,
shit.
why don't be sending me shit from some other guy you want?
No, like my wife will
I'm
still
trying
quote
hard over here.
She'll quote like comics I started with like in Harrisburg 6 years ago, and she'll like say something like, "Yeah, like remember, but I have this bit." She's like, "Yeah, but remember, blah blah blah." Like that guy's, and it will always be like good shit, and it makes me happy because like we'll quote like local open mic comic jokes to each other because she used to go to open mics with me before we had that family. but like it's just so funny. But like, or she'll see something online, like send it to you, or like it. I'm like, what are you doing looking at this guy?
Who the fuck is this guy? You used to date this motherfucker?
Yeah.
What the fuck? He's bigger than me too?
Yeah.
Che, what are your thoughts, man?
It's saying it's at least you're dealing with that with just one partner. When you're
True.
dating, like I'm bringing, it's the only magic trick I have is bring girls to bring women, to these shows, and then just they always go, I really like the other guy's joke. I'm like, you saw me.
Yeah. Oh, the third guy was my favorite.
Why would you do that?
They go, yeah, well, he hits his wife, so let's get in the car.
Do you know?
No, I love that. My favorite was the second guy.
My favorite was the
Funny,
second.
'cause
I was
fourth.
third.
I was fourth. That's a weird.
You know, I was actually at the bar talking to that funny guy when you were on stage. How did you do?
Yeah, exactly.
Damn it. If I wasn't doing this podcast with Al, I would not be allowed to be here.
Yeah, it is fun. That's why we should just keep going, guys. I got a whole night out, I think. Let's go.
It is when you do this, maybe just life in general. It is better when you have somebody to support. Like you were talking about your wife supporting you.
Yeah.
And support doesn't mean you have to be there for every open mic and every show.
Yeah.
You just got to be cool with us going to the show. And you know, we could come back in a pretty lousy mood because shit didn't go as well as we want.
Yeah.
And you just understand the game, you understand the hustle, and you just let it go. That's a what the
Don't
fuck?
do worse. Don't do more. I'm sorry.
Pause.
Sorry, everybody. Pause, everybody.
No, but that is the better thing. When you got someone who's like, hey, I'm going to New York tonight. They're not like, why? They're like, break a leg.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm going to Harrisburg tonight. Why?
No, you always say why when someone says I'm going to Harrisburg. tonight.
The silence.
If
It's
my-
not the why now. It's the silence.
When my
I'm
wife
like,
doesn't
oh.
ask why I'm going to Harrisburg, there's a
And
problem
it's
in our
also, same thing,
relationship.
supporting them what they want to do.
Right.
Hey, I'm going to go out with my friends. Go right ahead.
Do you
know, I
guys
got
get
this.
that? Like I run that all the time, and this is away from like dad shit, but trying to find my wife's thing. I feel like we're always trying to find her thing because like comedy is my thing, and I still love baseball. Like I have those two things. And I'm a runner. Like those are my
You give
three
up.
things.
That's what it is.
I got those three
Don't you,
Baseball
I feel
player
selfish.
vibe.
Sometimes I felt selfish because if I was like, oh, I need her to have space to have her
Yeah,
thing.
I want her to
too.
have a thing, but then I don't want her thing to be my thing.
Yeah, well, and part of it, like, I think
that's a
mothers
problem.
being mothers is a thing too, but it shouldn't be their only thing
Yeah,
because they
shouldn't
need
be
that.
Yeah.
And like my wife when we were younger, she really liked volleyball and like stuff like that. So like I thought, oh, rec, but she turned into like she really likes teaching. So like obviously some of her work and caring for these kids takes over, but even that's her job, right?
not a thing
So then
anymore,
she
yeah.
found, but so she like so it's like some of those things where I'm like, you know, you get nervous sometimes in terms of like, but then you're like, oh, well, are they happy? And my wife loves the work she's doing. She loves being a mom. She loves going to Girl Scouts.
Is what we're giving you as your release, is that enough?
Yeah.
Is it enough of a release, right? Because we're like, oh, you need a thing. You need your thing. Is your thing just 15 minutes and I'm okay with that? Or is your thing really helping you be a good person, be better, let the stress out? Because I don't want to just pick up on a thing because you kind of like it and now it's your thing and you're not even, or is it really, really helping you? I think that's a big move.
I meant more like I want my wife to get into bare knuckle boxing. I want her to find a thing.
That would be awesome.
Just rough some people up for me. I told you I'm a coward. I need bodyguards.
You do need a bare knuckle fight, man.
The longer my hair gets, the tougher I need my wife to be.
Oh, totally. That's
You're
what I'm
gonna
saying.
look like
Your hair
Roadhouse,
is
but need her to beat
baseball
people up.
player
But it's,
vibe.
Yeah, I know.
But it's
You're
not.
right.
It's not
Great.
really away from parenting because those are the same things we want for our kids. You know what I mean? 'Cause I think
Yeah.
we're just saying we want us to be whole people.
Yeah.
We want us to be like that's one thing like I take away from my mom. She always was like, "Yo, be balanced, work hard, play hard, all of that." And that's all I want. I want for my daughters to have something artistic that they're into. You know, I love to see that when they do crafts and stuff that I would never do. And I'm
Oh
like,
my God, I
thank
love
God.
the crafts. The crafts are great.
You know, I hate the glitter, but like all the other stuff. Are your daughter playing with glitter
Yeah,
yet?
I love all the crafts. Witchcraft. She's getting into all
Yeah.
No, her craft, like she's still like even coloring is like 9 seconds on one page. I'm gonna
I think
scribble a bunch of stuff. 10 seconds on the next page, and I'm just doodling in the corner of each
Yeah.
page every time.
Yeah.
I try to make the little flip book guys in the corner.
Stick figures.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't really work.
My son's a good artist, but he's been doing something that's like half cute, half terrifying. He likes drawing pictures of me and then put it under his bed. He's like, it's like I want daddy to be here with me because in his own room. So I'm like, oh, that's really cute. So he drew like a picture of me. At the same time, it's like a very scary picture of
Yeah.
me.
That's sad, terrifying.
Yeah.
That is
Also, why does daddy have a knife in his neck in that picture?
Whose blood is that?
Where's Daddy's arm?
It's very like Deadpool, like him cutting my head off. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but he just pictures like us, and he puts like under the bed. He's like, oh, just so it's like you're here, and I'm like, oh, that's really sweet.
That is
That made me realize I'm a good dad because it's like even though you're next door, I still want like you're here. Make pretend you're here. I was like,
So now, so you're living. So what's if you don't mind me asking, like, what's your living situation?
I'll be real with you. Like, I don't know. Me and my ex were really doing this really well. Like, I get him every Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, I have to go like to Jersey, pick him up from school, bring him back to Philly.
I go to Jersey.
And every other weekend. So we split the month right down the middle. And I'll be real. Like, I love when I'm on, now it's like when I'm on daddy mode, I'm on daddy mode. Like, it's me, having to make dinner. It's me having to cook. There's nobody else taking responsibility for any of this, the homework or nothing.
And it got better, didn't it?
And then the other half, like, I get to hang out and do my thing and be a person and not worry like, oh, my kid is preventing me from writing the scripts that I want. Like, no, man, you got these days off that you can do that now, And it's a lot. Honestly, it's for anybody who's like, oh, this isn't working out. Just separate. Seriously, just separate.
Just pull the Band-Aid off.
Even if it is working out, just try separating.
Dude, leave it to Beaver.
space.
They slept in different beds.
That's what
Okay.
I'm just saying. So it's actually really and honestly, what was terrible is like when it was just her and I, we had like no friends, no family. So like I'd be taking care of the baby and she'd go out, and then she'd be taking care of the kid and I'd go out and do comedy. So like the kid was always like in the same apartment. Now she's got other people in her life.
Nice.
The kid gets to hang out with other people. I'm connecting with other people. So it's like our son literally in the last year has developed his language much more because being separated, we've opened up our circles. We're no longer just tethered to each other, and that's it. So it was a very weird shift that I didn't expect to be a good thing, but it was.
Yeah, when you stop trying to force yourself into whatever cookie cutter you thought you were supposed to be, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a whole other thing.
Oh, it's such a liberating thing when you're like, fuck those things I thought I was supposed to be.
Societal.
Just go make it's gonna make it do what it do.
Yeah.
It's such a liberating thing, and probably parenting, it makes it strong, it makes it better. You guys probably have a way tighter bond and better bond now.
Yeah, I love, for the first time, like I'm in therapy too. So first time, like I'm really like loving myself because I'm like above getting my apartment set up, above doing everything else. Like I am really in my son's life. Like I just booked a trip for us to go visit his grandma in Chicago. Him and I, we've done it already. It's gonna be a second time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't freak out when he's on the airplane with anything, so I can deal with it a lot more. And I'm like, wow, I've really gotten to a place where I have a son with special needs, and him and I can travel anywhere, and I can do this like a fucking G. I'm very proud of myself.
Great, dude. That's fucking great.
I mean, anytime you do something with your kid on your own, I don't know about you, but like anywhere, regardless of the kid, there's something cool about being like,
they're still alive.
They survive.
Dude, I love hanging out with my
I got
daughters,
shoulder
me and Laney
problems.
Mae, just walking, holding hands. Beautiful moment. It doesn't matter where we're going. Love it.
Yeah.
Never gets old.
I get cocky, dude. I got shoulder problems from patting myself on the back. Like dad shit. I'm like, that kid's alive another day. You're welcome, Earth.
That's right. Like when you
Anyway,
take
I'm
him to the
gonna go watch
store,
The
anything.
Simpsons.
Yeah.
It's great.
I love that because I'll be honest, like I was, and you'll probably relate to this too. Is like I was nervous to take her on a plane, restaurants, anything where I was going to inconvenience someone else, and like they couldn't.
Someone else, exactly.
And that mentality was like, because there used to be a thing. I remember we were talking about doing a flight, and I was reading online, oh, people made little baggies for people, and I honestly, in a moment, had a thing of like, oh, I'll make little care packages for the people around me. I want to punch that guy in his face. The guy, the version of me that thought to do that, if I saw him again, I would
Right.
piss out of it.
Oh, I'm sorry for my daughter. You know what I mean? You're like,
what were you thinking?
now you walk in, I feel like you be like kicking people out. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
we have
you know what I'm doing here?
candles. We have a little massage right here.
It's like
James massaging people and the kids
it's okay,
crying.
buddy. You don't
Noise
feel like
canceling
big
headphones
fella,
from
you know,
Bose for everybody near you.
It's like, I was like,
Put oil on some dude's head. There you go. Relax.
so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. Is this your erogenous zone?
You think about that. Now you're spending more time worrying about other people than your own kid. Isn't that crazy?
But like,
Isn't it fucking
seriously.
crazy?
Yeah.
You think
Well,
about other people.
Well, you know how like earlier you said your partner at one point she didn't, or no, was it who didn't recognize early on? We were talking about something where they didn't
my
recognize-
ex. Yeah, it was my ex.
so,
Yeah, he
all right.
was a teacher. Yeah.
So like I feel like I met my kindergarten teacher. We were talking earlier, had a bad experience. Her kid had autism, but I didn't know that, and I felt like she was treating my daughter unfairly. So I called a meeting. We met in person instead of it was the snippiness of emails where you're like, we're not breaking a wall. Each of us is hearing a track that's not. We're not connecting.
Right.
Let's just
Like
sit and
texting
let's
someone.
just go in the classroom, sit in those goddamn small chairs and figure it out. And I said to her at one point, I'm just kind of reiterating what my emails were, and she's like, "Well, this isn't my first rodeo." window, and I'm like, well, it's mine.
Yeah.
And like we had this moment where she connected. She's like, my son has autism. She's like, I kind of sheltered him. I didn't like take him out a lot. And she just had this moment. She's like, and she stopped. She's like, I've never said that out loud before.
Oh,
And we had this moment at the table where that was what was happening. She was projecting the hardness she wished she had done to her own son. And so she was realizing that like what we were trying to do is something that she had wished she had done.
I am so
And we
happy
had
I
a
didn't stay
moment.
at that stage. Oh my God, I could have been that regretful parent very
Right?
easily because there was a point where I just wanted to keep him home. And now I'm
You
just
felt like it was easier to just stay
it's
inside.
so easy to stay inside. I mean, iPads
what she
are
said.
fucking crack.
Oh,
for
it's
these
so
kids.
easy
you
with a
just-
kid that isn't diagnosed autism too. You're like, we could go out in the world, or
iPad all day.
all the
and
stuff
iPad-
you've ever
iPad's
wanted to
easy,
watch is
it's
available.
easy.
Yeah, it's kind of what I want to do too. Is just lay on the
Yes.
couch and eat veggie straws. Fuck yeah, let's do this.
They're way better than
That's what all the
way
kids
better
want.
than they look.
We need
They're
to
way
force
better
ourselves to
than
get our
they
kid
look.
on
Your
a
kid
bike
got
today.
loves veggie straws. Yeah,
They're way
Yeah.
better than they look. That's what they are.
We fight over snacks. I love it.
That is a diarrhea waiting to happen.
Oh,
Too many
yeah.
of those, dude.
Yeah,
You can't do
Yeah, you're gonna.
it's too much
a whole
canola oil.
bag. Yeah.
I don't think I've had this much fun. This is what a dad
Yeah,
party
yeah.
we're having.
What a yeah.
I said it again.
Yeah, I know. We all hated it.
I feel like you just
Second-
sandwiched
yo.
it. You just move it. You started with dad party and you ended with dad party.
I
This
wanted-
was
so what a callback.
a dad
If I'm-
party.
Yo, you know, if
Comedy
you Google
genius.
dad party, shit just has to be so.
I don't
weird.
want to do that.
Yeah.
Don't just
I don't want to
do
Google dad party.
Also, none of us are in New Balances. This isn't a dad party.
Dad party.
Dude, I just threw mine out last night and bought a pair of Nikes.
Nice.
nice.
That's how you know your dad. You just refer to him as Nikes,
I
not
know
anything
That
specific.
Jordans, that Air Force One,
Yeah.
that Dunks, those Nikes.
And now
Nickies.
and I will say that
Nikes are
was
nice these
I
days.
did go to the New Balances first, and they just didn't have my size.
There you go.
So you
So
wanted
if I'm
to-
being honest,
I love that I didn't have his size. So many men had sore feet. So they're like, we just gotta get New Balance.
dude,
Jesus.
I did this bingo event on concrete for these baseball
For the
moms
soccer
on
moms.
Friday.
You remember you had that gig off
Well,
with
I
me
did.
once.
So it was a similar one. It was a
Yeah.
different organization, but same thing.
Same thing.
I stood on concrete for like 4 hours calling
hurts.
bingo.
Oh.
And I didn't. Now that I'm 40, I woke up the next day and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
And the shoes were old shoes that needed to be replaced. And I
So you
just
guys
didn't do it.
Oh,
New Balances.
Proper
got some
footwear
Nikes.
is key.
And they were New Balances.
Monarchs?
Yeah.
Some Monarchs. You got some Nike Monarchs on the
You
way?
need proper footwear for certain situations.
They're
I knew I
not
was going to be sitting so I could wear the most
I
uncomfortable
do have Monarchs
shoe
though.
because I'm just chilling. But if we were walking and doing this podcast, I'm going to be in my
Thinking
comfy
about it now,
walking
I'm thinking
shoes.
about it.
That's right.
This
That's
whole
right.
weekend I was trying to be too Latino, so I wore too many dress shoes to too many events, and I'm like, this event did not
dude,
need
he's
dress
got-
shoes.
He's got Band-Aids on his toes
I
right
do
now.
right now. I was at the Latino film festival weekend, so I wanted to be extra Latin. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
You go hard
I
on
wore the
that
most
shit.
uncomfortable snake shoes or whatever.
Dancing all night, showing you still got it, right?
I wore my best like those monos are like the Mexicans from Breaking Bad, how they're in the suits with like this. I was wearing my best like I'm crawling across the border in this suit. You know what I mean?
I had that Pollos
sharp.
Hermano shirt. That was like I would have the coolest conversations with people.
Oh my god! Yeah.
What a
That
great
is a dad
series.
conversation about Breaking Bad.
yeah.
You guys-
The best
yeah.
show ever. Is it not better?
I mean, that dad really wanted to provide for his kids.
better than Sopranos, right? He's totally better than Sopranos.
I mean, if you guys are trying to open up a whole new episode,
I
we
know,
could
right?
get into
That's
it.
true.
Dad con.
Dude, I do have a birthday party next week, so I'm excited to wear
Dad
a
con.
graphic tee from Kohl's so that I can have a conversation
Oh,
with
man.
a dad. Yeah, so no, it's
with
fun.
Nike Monarchs and his Iron Man T-shirt. He's gonna fucking
That's the
kill
sad
it.
part when you were a dad at a real birthday party. Like, oh my
This
god,
is
like
this is our dad generation. Isn't that crazy? We wear Iron Man shirts and Deadpool. That's what we have
right.
conversations
Yeah.
about.
that's right.
I stay away from the other dad. I can't stand being around the other dad.
No, dude, I just went to I went to a birthday party the other day and I scanned the backyard and I was like, no one here I want to talk to.
Yeah.
So I went over and made potions at the fairy party with my daughter and then just went home. I was like, I
This
gotta
is
go
a
home.
very real thing because I'm someone who is single. I don't have kids. So when I go to a party, and now that I'm in my 30s, so I'm like experiencing. I was like, yo, no. So here, these are all cool dads,
Yeah.
and I mean that like I mean, don't be an asshole. Like,
NJ,
don't,
NJ's
yeah,
here
like,
too.
these
I'm
are-
here too.
These are all cool dads, but yeah, you start to pick. You start
I
to go,
also-
these are the cool parents over here,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of.
I live in a
They're a
quasi trendy town too, so I'll look around at the band shirts that each dad has on. I'm like, I can't talk to fucking Mumford and Sons over here. I gotta.
Che, do you have
gotta
like
talk
do you have
to-
special needs parents that you like? Do you know other special needs parents?
I do, but the issue
You.
that I have, yeah, you know what? You might be the
Yeah.
coolest one I've met so far because
So that's a game changer for me. When I started realizing there were organizations like that my daughter does, like soccer, cheerleading, baseball, all special needs version. She also does like Girl Scouts and regular things. But like once I started getting her into those and meeting those parents, game changer. I mean, like, because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, somebody gets it. Like when you're talking about that airplane thing, I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm just because that's what those people at the show that I'm experiencing when I talk and open up about that on stage. I'm getting these great moments. Same thing with like my parent. When I talk about like having gay moms and a gay dad and growing up in an environment, like all of a sudden there's a whole other slew of people and that identify and they're just a camaraderie. Like
Damn,
even
your
us as
family
comedians.
loves this month.
Che,
This is a great month.
We didn't even crack the surface of your
Great.
gay family.
Great.
Oh,
I know.
yeah.
That's every other episode. Stoudemire was just busting me. He's like, oh, this is the longest we've gone without Jay saying he had two moms.
Che, but what was the reason why you might not have why don't you know other parents? It feels like you were gonna say something. And then
Oh,
you kinda
I
held
was-
back. Is there like a thing or?
I'm having like this is gonna be totally mean, but my son goes to school in like South Jersey, and all those South Jersey parents are a little,
Oh,
a
there's I know
little,
one right
a little
there.
more right leaning. All right,
this
so
just
it's like
got real.
So it's like it's not. I don't have anything with like anybody. Yeah, I do have stuff with people in the right way. Let me not. Let me not get up.
Oh, come to my town. It is the
So it's-
leftist leaning town on
You know,
earth.
fuck you,
It's
have had
So it's a political
Yeah,
situation
so a
with
lot
the
of
other
those parents have a lot of like.
so gay.
You know, I have a lot of stuff about like,
Mega gay.
I grew up undocumented. I'm very political and stuff like that. Sometimes like a lot of those parents won't really like.
Yeah.
Once they start talking to me, you know, you always become the problematic one where you're the more political one. And
Yeah.
so I'm always like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm problematic. So that's why like I'm having a hard time finding parents who like want to hang out with me because
How
I'm
long
like,
before you get into the political talk?
How
You
long
go
before
fast?
it cracks into it?
Oh, I get fast into it. I don't want to waste any time
Like,
with
hey, my
friendships
name's
and
Che, would you
relationships.
vote for
I
that?
get to it quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not even communist essentially. So what are you? And they're like, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I know you're good. I know you're good.
I know you
good.
guys. I saw what you drove up in. Okay,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
I know you're
exactly.
good. You're doing great. Okay.
I'm trying to make sure we're good. Communism 101.
So I'm just like I'm having a hard time meeting parents that I could actually like relate to in that sense. But with you and I'm finding other comedians
There
too.
are, and there are like
Yeah.
I would encourage like for like the days you have like even though it's like one day there's organizations I didn't realize that my wife's so good with finding this but like there's organizations out there where like there are meetups like even Ryan Foster talks about like taking his so there are organizations. I actually started one right before the pandemic with another parent and we would go to churches would have us come in and talk about our kids and autism because they all had family or knew someone but didn't quite know how to have the conversation with the people in their lives about it. And that's why I think for me it was like, well, if I'm going to talk about anything, even at school, I'm always using humor because that's a great in on those kind of things. So it's like, yeah, I'd encourage you to find there's got to be organizations within your community that even on the Wednesdays or whenever, because that's the other, you have an extra variable in there. You have an extra layer where like, you know, you're only seeing them 2 days. Well, oh, it meets on Friday. Oh, well, I only have Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
But there's still,
I think
and
I'm for YMCA a lot so I can.
it's
hang
good
out
for
with
the
other
kid.
and stuff like
It's
that,
good for
too.
it's good for your kid and it's good for you because then you get that camaraderie of being around other parents who get it. You know what I mean? Like even this was, you know, cathartic enough for me to have someone around. I'm like,
Damn, I'm envious of that. I'm just meeting parents and I'm just grasping at straws for commonality.
you're like,
I'm
where's the veggie
it's
straw?
like, so you see any good movies? And like, I've never watched a movie in my life.
They're
I'm like,
so
God
fucking
damn it. Why can't our
Parents
kids
are so
both be
fucking
autistic?
annoying.
Wow, you're still
Yeah,
on.
right?
Yeah, you're still on
So
movies. Good
I
for
don't know
you.
how we're
Yeah.
doing on time here, but I have a question.
Yes.
So you have like meetings, like Ryan talks about like having an autistic. Like,
Damn, I hate how
meetup
much we're
type of thing.
referencing him.
So do I.
He can sense it over
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Port Richmond. He's glowing
full
a
on
little
right now. But they have like it's like a meet to meet other like kids who are autistic and such. Do you think that maybe like that's kind of like almost like steering them in a direction where they can meet other people in the world who are not autistic?
My son, and you know, we're very proud of him. He just moved up to the point now where he can be like in a regular class, but which is like an aide because he can
Okay.
do the regular work and everything. So that is something that like with the comedians that I hang out with, you know, they don't have like, you know, kids with autism. So I find that my son is starting to be able to hang out with people more. And so I'm trying to like,
Well, and it,
Yeah,
yeah,
push
and
that.
it's a different, it's a separate
so I get
pot
what you're
here.
saying.
Because like I see
Keeping
what
them
you're
too long in
saying.
the same place hinders them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is different. This is saying like this is a sheltering thing. So it's not about that. She's out in the world. She's doing Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
She's on the bus, like whatever. But it's like she needs to be able to play an organized sport, and she can't go on
Right.
a normal little
Right.
team. It's just
for the
impossible.
team, for the team, for the
That'd
team,
be
for the
like,
team,
well,
okay.
sweetheart, there's stairs. Yeah, but daddy, I can't use my legs. Well, you're just gonna have to crawl up
You're gonna
these
have to
stairs.
figure
Well,
it
no,
the
there's
fuck
an
out.
elevator. Let's just take the elevator. So there's got to be an elevator version for like whatever. And so she's really smart. So she just does Girl Scouts regular. She's earning all her badges. She's killing it. But when it comes to baseball, actually, she's pretty good. Like you could throw it at her. She catches overhand. She throws. She hits the ball really well, and she does those things. But I couldn't put on a normal team. Like she just wants to have snack time and
Right.
needs to be able to do whatever, and she just can't.
You got a better balance than I had in my
Can't
mind.
cope,
Yeah, I get
you
you
know?
with that. Yeah.
But like I need her to be. I want her to be on a team. I want her to be around other kids. I need to be around those other parents.
Yeah.
Because those kids know the same empathy. They're all different, but they all accept each other. And now she has friends, and so it's like, I think it's a good balance.
So yeah, so you do need that.
But you need to be balanced. You do, because
You gotta keep it
then the
balanced.
reverse is, well, if you don't search out those organizations, you're like my daughter's kindergarten teacher, where she felt like she sheltered them because she didn't know. Because before this, like our grandparents were putting kids in institutions because they were
and
not.
all this is still also new too. That's what's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Because you're like, there's no right, wrong, yes or no way.
We're
to
on the
figure
fly.
things
We are
out.
currently on the fly
Right,
now. Yeah,
right.
I think what's cool, what I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about this, is like we're all the version of our family's like best version. Like, because I think every parent
we are the
wants to
culmination of all
do
of that.
better.
Yeah.
Like you talk back to what our grandfathers were talking about. They were bitching about double overtime and not getting paid and working whatever.
Yeah.
That's what consumed their thoughts. The luxury that we get to talk about Iron Man, that's an amazing
There's no
luxury.
threat
that
of
we
there's
wouldn't
no
get to
threat of
talk
me
about.
losing my fingers at work.
Right? But like we're our best version of our family. Like, and now our kids are the next.
Do you ever
best
think about that?
version.
I would hate to meet so I knew my dad's dad. I didn't know beyond that. I
Yeah.
would hate to meet 2 generations beyond that.
Oh God, and be like, hey,
'Cause
this is
now
what I'm
they'd be
about.
like,
look at the hair. This
Oh
guy.
God,
were
just
talking-
everything.
God.
They would just rip me apart.
I can. My family has like I see like the men in my family getting progressively better up until me, because like my because like my
Every dynasty's got a reset. You know what I mean? The Bulls have sucked for a while.
my grandfather, right? It's so funny. My grandfather drank and smoked so much that he went blind. Right?
Hell yeah.
So my dad is an alcoholic, but he thinks he's better because he never went blind. Right?
Yeah.
And then I don't drink, so I'm like, you see how we're just getting better? I'm just, and then the next one's gonna be a fucking stone, like sober motherfucker,
Yeah,
like my
there you
kids,
go.
Dude. So it's just a little progressively better.
It's perfect.
My name is Che Guerrero Jr., and I have never drinking anything in my
I'm
time.
drinking. I'm just like, I just don't have a problem. Like,
Not that big of one at least.
no. You know, I didn't-
Like, doesn't even have caffeine in it. Like, nothing. Just completely.
And then one day there's just going to be the purest version of you, but then that guy's kid is going to be a piece of shit. Like that guy's kid is going to drink.
That guy's kid.
It's like it's the children
start being a shit kid again.
right, because you get in those generational things where it's like I'm 37, so my dad was a kid of a guy who fought in war.
Yeah.
My dad never fought in a war. I've shot a gun once in my life, and I like
PS5.
almost cried. Right? Yeah. So like,
less guns in your hands is like
there
your
you go.
PS3.
That's how I look at it. But as long as one generation could shoot less guns, I've done my
If
part.
I've only shot guns on a video game, okay.
yeah. If I only just did it drunk with my friends once, that's okay.
yeah. Oh my god.
But it's funny because it does reset. That's why I realized with teaching, like, I think like as you teach something, you see how you taught it in the next year. You're like, oh, why did I do it that way? At least with teaching, I get a new set of kids every year.
Yeah.
And I get to be a better version. Oh, I see where I was slipping into that. So it's almost like help me be a parent because I get a Groundhog Day every year.
That's actually
Wow,
where I
that's
get a
good analogy.
chance to kind of
When you're a
actually
parent,
go
you don't.
through it.
The past is the past. It's
And
gone.
so
It's
now
gone.
I feel like, wow, I had like, before I had a kid, I mean, I was a teacher for probably like, well, my oldest is 10. So I was teaching 8 years before I had a kid. And so that was almost like 8 years of being a parent, but it's like bowling shoes. You return them at the end of the game and you're happy. Like, but you still had a part. Like you still know, but you don't know. That we were talking about that earlier. Like you don't know if you're a good parent till later on, until you start
You don't
seeing
know
them
till- you
do
don't know
something.
till
You're
the
like,
end. You don't know till the end.
Now you
until-
got to feed those
until the-
bowling
until the-
shoes.
yeah,
and
right.
You got to tuck them in.
Disinfect them.
Until
every
the
You
high
got
once
to
in a
teach
school
those
counselor
bowling
calls you up
shoes
and
about
says, hey,
hate.
yeah,
And
talk about
Got to take out the bumpers eventually.
So unfortunately, guys, I got to pull the old.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotta pull it. This has been amazing.
This was great.
This was a good
great,
one.
great vibe, great everything. I love
The
it.
name of the episode's Dad Party.
Dad
so you
Party.
go fuck yourself.
I know. I can see you. I can see you making
No,
the
it's
decision.
not. It's not. Pause.
But yeah, does
Dad Party
anyone?
pause.
I mean, again, we're not 100% sure. I think when this might come out, and I could just cut this. But does anybody just want to put their social? I have your
Yes, you
social
can plug-
medias up there. Anything else you guys want
plug
to?
themselves?
Yeah, and then
We'll cut to that.
Yeah, Chad, you want to go ahead, Rick?
Everything I do, top to bottom, you can find me under my undocumented ass. That's it. I do a lot of stuff about growing up undocumented. I still have issues with my status, so you wouldn't even get into that. You know, like having being in a mixed status family, and like if I get, that's why people always tell me.
That'll be the next one.
Very quick, just saying, like, that's what people always tell me, like, yo, why don't you just go back to where you came from? Like, man, I got 2 kids with special needs. Like, they will not get the services that they require if I was to get deported, and they'd have to come with me. So I really have to, like, I don't want to fight to be in this country, but I have to for them because they need me here. So
Hell
that's
yes.
but you can find all that work that I do under my undocumented ass.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. We didn't even touch on that.
Damn, you can find me at fully documented.
I knew that was coming.
You can find me at always with my kids.
Yeah, you can find me at. I'm just lucky, I guess, because my parents
I will
had me
deport
here.
your fucking ass.
I went on a cruise to Mexico.
I mean, I guess I do jokes sometimes. No, Montague Comedy on Instagram. Hacks Comedy Golf is still out there. I was on.
Is that still out there?
It's out there. I mean,
That
it's on the.
rules?
It's on the
Yeah,
world.
just so you know,
And,
I did
that
hacks.
rules.
I did hacks golf. I almost had a hole in one.
Yeah.
I mean, I legit almost had a hole in one.
Wow,
It was a 5
almost.
iron.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
important.
It
almost.
was a 5 iron.
Four
5
putted.
iron.
I
Take
remember
up
the
on the back nine.
Yeah.
And then that rules as well.
That Rules podcast and High Note Humor. We got an open mic weekly over in Jersey and a monthly show there that we run called Post Game Comedy. Come out to that. It's an
And
awesome.
we is Matt Peoples and
It's a whole team of people
Oh,
at High
cool.
Note.
Well, That
so
Rules
Matt
is you,
Peoples
Matt
is
Peoples.
yeah. So Matt Peoples and I didn't want to mention him, man. I hate.
I wanted to mention him.
I hate when he gets
Dude, we're just
plugged.
mentioning these white dudes who aren't
Yeah.
even
It's
disgusting.
good-looking white dude. Ryan
It's
Forbes, man.
disgusting.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
If only I knew some women that
nuts.
were funny.
We're so like thirsty.
Well, that was at the end.
where somehow that one didn't get
Cutting that out. Wow, that's a new
No, thank you guys. Honestly, what a great conversation.
This is a good.
This was fun.
This was a good one.
Thank you.
Most fun.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously? Thank you for listening to the dads, for once. Give these daddies a break. And maybe follow, subscribe, like, and comment to the dads on Instagram and YouTube at Seriously Dad Pod. Rate and review Seriously Dad Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Seriously, Dad?
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.